couldn't agree more. And just I try my best to avoid logical fallacies through and through. But in this specific situation, I can't help but continuously think of the slippery slope. This is how it does affect men.
Yeah.
Even if you're a cis man, even if you're a gay man, like, they will do this to gay marriage also. Mm-hmm. They will do this to some degree, even interracial marriage. Mm-hmm. This will affect you. This will affect the civilization, the society that you're living in, and it matters. It doesn't matter if you're. I guess what I should say is, if you are a guy and you're like, oh, well, this doesn't affect me, I'm not going to think about this. Like, no, but also, it affects you.
Yeah.
Period.
So we just pulled up this website back here, and it says, this is like so crazy because I had never even thought of this, but so this is from Stanford Law Review, and it says 47% right here. 47. It will reduce violent crime by 47% and property crime by 33%. Over this period. So
right.
So legalizing abortion is what you're specifying.
So after Roe v. Wade, there was a period of about 2 decades, right? Which is not a coincidence, right? 18 is the cutoff for, being prosecuted in most states.
Sure.
Where numerous people have done these sort of meta-analysis on the rates of violent crime and even nonviolent crime. And after Roe v. Wade, the rates started to fall and continue to fall every year up. I think the most recent one I've seen was 2014. And so the impact on society that access to, abortion has is not limited to you and your friends.
Right.
So let me go ahead and get a little super anecdotal here. So forgive the rant. When I was 18 years old, or 19, I forget exactly the timeline. It's been a little blurry. That was a tough time in my life. I had a girlfriend, and we were young, and I was traveling a bit, and I was traveling a lot, actually. And we got pregnant. Emotionally speaking, nowhere near mature enough. Financially speaking, not even fucking close. We had a conversation. We ended up getting an abortion.
Yeah.
And to Bree's point, despite the fact that both her and I had decided this is what's best for us, right? Ultimately, that relationship did not work out. We went separate ways. Our lives changed dramatically. That decision, despite the fact that I'm here now, I'm more successful. My life would have been dramatically different if I had a 10-year-old right now. Despite that reality, that decision, even though it has helped me in theory, in the abstract, there was so much emotional turmoil that I had to deal with as a man, as a person, as a potential father at that point. So many things were going through my mind, a conscious person, that I had to deal with even past that relationship. Like, the scars of that decision were still evident years after.
Yeah. Years
after. And I mean years, things that I couldn't process. Because again, that decision is a hard decision in and of itself, let alone if there's a politician in the back of my mind,
right,
having this conversation with me. So in a way, that's how it affects men.
Yeah.
But also, this is my kind of like tough words that I have for the right to put it very, very, very calmly. I am everything that you hate. I am brown. I grew up poor. I grew up as a product of the Reagan era. I am highly educated. I beat your statistics. I beat you'll be dead by 21. I beat your all you are is a hoodlum. I beat your they're all drug dealers, and because that's where I come from. I beat all of that. And to top it all off, and which I'm sure in some way might piss you off, I did it by this pulling yourself up by your bootstraps mentality, which is bullshit in and of itself. And I won't let you use me as a poster boy for it. I just won't. I will never let you do that, because the single biggest factor in my success has been luck. End of story. But to that point, and to the point of that statistic that you just brought up, and the point that I made earlier about poverty, about how this affects people that are marginalized and poor, right? It is a revolving door. Poverty, lower income neighborhoods, it is a revolving door of pain and trauma. And this decision, this law, whether you like to admit it or not, is deeply intertwined to the fibers of that trauma. It is deeply intertwined to the generational cycle of how people grow up and what they have to deal with. Because inevitably, whether you like it or not, we are not a perfect society. So whether you like it or not, there will be people like my parents, like their parents before them, that are growing up without fully realizing who they are, how they want to live, their emotional maturity, that are making decisions that they have to live with the consequences of, but then have to raise people in these kinds of environments. And if you are creating a society with no health care for people, if you are creating a society with no access, with no education, with no funding towards those places that need it most, and then on top of that, you vilify them, you're just a fucking coward, an asshole, and dead wrong. Because you cannot expect people to end up like me just because of this abstract philosophy. There are very practical things that we as a society, that us as people, as a community, and our politicians can do to, in 20 years' time, long-term political movement, all these words that I've been saying, to get us closer and closer to getting really, 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 really close to the eradication of poverty as we knew it. Because you're not going to sit here and tell me specifically that I don't sympathize with that struggle. I do. You're not going to sit here and tell me that I don't sympathize with the currently the opioid epidemic, which is tragic, and it is primarily affecting rural white people. But I feel for you because I come from there. My friends died because of overdoses. It's deep. I care about it, right? The only problem is that people on the right are convinced that these politicians have your best interest at heart. That rural opioid epidemic will get solved with leftist policies, not with you hating who I am as an immigrant, not with you thinking that I'm trying to steal your job. It's absurd. Whether you like to admit it or not, this decision, this law, if it was available for everybody, healthcare was available, if all of those things that I'm talking about were put into motion, not immediately, to talk again about how that instant gratification works, not immediately, generationally, we can see dramatic progress. Dramatic progress. Well, there are people right now, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. You're good. There are people right now, there are brown and black people right now that probably lean conservative, that are an indirect consequence of that lack of poverty that you were talking about. Do you know what I mean? When after that 18 years and that lack of poverty and that lack of crime happened, those people that experienced less of that probably became more successful. You had kids that grew up to be more successful that now have the luxury of saying, you know what, I lean politically right. Without understanding that part of the privilege that you got to have, if any, was because of things like this. If you want America to be the best it could be, we as people need to be the best that we can be. And the only way to have us be the best that we can be is if you trust that we know what's best for ourselves. And that is true whether it's me, whether it's you, and that is true whether it's a woman, that is true whether it's a trans man, that is true, period, point blank, end of story. This is why I stand firm on this is a bodily autonomy issue, not anything else. You know what I mean?
I feel like so many people lean towards like abortions being the issue, and that they think by passing this that abortions will no longer happen, but it just means that safe abortions are what aren't going to happen anymore.
And it's just faulty logic. Cocaine is illegal, but hello, Wall Street bankers do cocaine. I promise you that.
Like immediately,
I've met them.
Immediately, as soon as it came out, I seen people posting about like different herbs that if you take too much of them can cause, and like just all these different like things or medicines that could cause that. And then it becomes really scary though on top of it, because even then with women that get pregnant and end up having a miscarriage, I feel like there's going to be a lot of, how do you find out if this is, a miscarriage that somebody they wanted to go through with this pregnancy and they don't know why it happened, or if something did happen that they were trying to give themselves an abortion, and how they're going to legally go about that, and I feel like it's terrifying even
past that.
Yeah, exactly. Like there are going to be women that are going to be, I don't know what consequences they're planning on doing, if it's jail time or what.
The Texas law attempted to have a bounty hunting fine, right? So if you were a doctor and you were found to have performed an abortion and somebody called you out on it, they get $10,000 from the state of Texas, right? That's punitive.
That's your tax money, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. But like the nuances of these laws is they're not going to stop it. They're going to keep doing those loopholes to try to dissuade people from doing it.
Yeah.
To that point, I want to tug on that string a little bit. Do you know, I tried to find this information and I didn't know. I know that people weren't up in arms. I wanted to talk about the practicality of the laws and how they would essentially try to figure out that this is happening. Do you know to what degree SB 8 has been effective? Like, do you know if people have been fined, if people are actually like coming forward and outing people? Like, do you know if that's actually happening?
I think that there has been legal challenges to parts of the bill, and I don't know to what extent, and so I can't speak to.
But I know that it's law right now.
Well, yeah. So yes, but I know that there's also legal challenges against it, and so parts of it have stood. I think while the like court cases are going through. But I mean, I can speak to working in a neonatal intensive care unit. Like the number of tenuous preterm infants has gone up, and that's not going to stop in Texas, right? And those kids, if they survive that age and make it to a later age, which the mortality rate of being born at 23 weeks is something around 90%, right? And so even if you survive, you're going to be very technology dependent, and Texas doesn't pay for health insurance for children very well. So like this is going to be a cascade of things. The laws are purposely designed to have a cascading element to it. So like they put a bit of it that'll encourage people to turn doctors or nurses in. They put a little bit of it that makes it that you have to drive an extra 250 miles. Right. This is the, like you were talking about, the chess strategy of trying to get these things to not happen.
That's a great way to put it. Yes.
It's like you were saying, it's a long game, right?
Yeah.
These things, my mom was a sex educator. I grew up in Arizona. I remember when these laws incrementally got passed through the Arizona state legislature, when they wanted it to be, you had to have an attached ER or like a surgical unit to your place. It couldn't just be the standalone Planned Parenthood clinic anymore.
Right.
And that happened in Texas, that happened in Oklahoma, that happened everywhere. It's a copy paste thing, and states are going to start adopting all these.
Right.
It's gonna keep going.
Right. And for the record, they are so good at the long game. And there goes my point. Like, politically speaking, I hate it, but holy crap, are they good at that game? It's scary. And as much as I love where we stand, like as much as I love our party and who we stand for and everything we do, man, if there was more organization, we could kick fucking ass. You know what I mean? Like, for decades. I digress.